So today we're going to be doing Madara Uchiha from basically midway in the war. Right? Yeah, good old Shippuden, midway through the war, and it's going to be him with Hashirama's cells, so that Sage mode, not the Sage of the Six Paths mode, versus Juubito.
Yeah, it's not...
yeah, this was like...
not Sage.
But...
Madara with Hashirama's DNA does not mean Madara has Sage mode. Madara is not Sage, so that means he can't use not Hashirama's or not Six Paths Senjutsu.
Look, we need to clarify that because people are obviously going to jump to it like, oh, what do you mean, Sage of the Six Paths Stomps? But anyway, so we're doing this topic because we mentioned it in the last video we collabed on, and we were talking about how much of a waste of a really cool fight we actually missed out on, thanks to Naruto and Sasuke. But anyway, so we're going to get into basically how the fight would go in a hypothetical situation.
Yeah, so like you said, it's Madara with Hashirama's Sage mode. You know, the one that he absorbed from Hashirama after fucking fondling him. Now, so let me make one thing clear. Neither of us think that Madara is stronger, faster, or whatever than Juubito, even with the added Sage mode buff on top of, you know, like his base mode. Like, he's really strong. He was able to fondle, like, everybody at once, even in base, but he's not stronger than fucking Juubito. That'd be ridiculous to claim that Juubito is, like, casually busting fucking continents and shit. Like, the Ten Tails fired off this gigantic Jubi blast, and you just see, like, all it did was go, like, rah! And then suddenly a mountain was gone. Now, I get it. Madara, you know, he like fucking unsheathed this perfect Susanoo sword and some mountaintops got blown up. But the Jubi is definitely a lot stronger. And then Obito also has Yin Yang release, so that nullifies all ninjutsu. So if Madara tries to use like Majestic Destroyer Flame or any of his ninjutsu, as a matter of fact, all Obito has to do is fire one of the Truth-Seeking Orbs, and Madara's jutsu will get nullified. Plus, this well, another thing that I should specify, by the way, is this is Edo Madara. This isn't a live Madara. And I'll get into why that is in just a moment. So, Madara doesn't have his Edo regeneration powers, at least not if Juubito hits him with any of the Truth-Seeking Orbs. He's at a heavy, heavy disadvantage here. But both Clyde and I are led to believe that he'd be able to do at least a pretty decent job in a fight against Juubito, because his plan was to absorb Hashirama's Sage Chakra and then use his Sage mode to fight Juubito, since Sage energy is the only thing capable of damaging a Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails.
We actually, we spent a lot of time trying to make Madara win. Like, honestly, we both like Madara, so it's pretty obvious that was going to be the case, but it's not an easy fight at all. There's no actual guarantee that he's going to win for that matter, but like Rob just said, he actually had a plan to take down Juubito if things, you know, if like shit hit the fan, and that basically entailed him using the Sage mode, because just like, you know, he said once again that the only way to damage someone with that sort of jutsu and the, you know, the fucking Ten Tails chakra and stuff is to actually use Sage energy. So
a lot of people would argue that Juubito could instant kill Madara by using the 6 Crimson Rays formation, where he created that massive Kage plus level barrier. Because like I said, it took a while for the barrier to close around him, and Madara has an insta-kill move at his disposal, that being the Human Path's ability to rip out somebody's soul using the Rinnegan. So the hypothetical scenario I'm getting at here is Juubito lays down the barrier, he summons the tree that fired the multiple Jubi bombs at the same time, and then while that's charging up, since Madara knows what's going on, he would either, one, attempt to blitz Obito, or he would try to get out of the barrier before it forms, leaving Obito stuck in there and forcing him to lower the barrier. I guess, you know, like, he could try doing this multiple times, and eventually he might be able to trap Madara in here, but I don't think that it's something that, like, it's like a battle ender that makes it completely impossible for Madara to win here.
Obito's barrier range was enormous. Madara's movement speed is not that fast that he could get out from the range of the barrier. He also can't fly, and Obito can react to Madara's speed. Only way to win with Human Path is to touch the opponent, but Madara can't touch Obito in that situation.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to get upset that you said that he could blitz Juubito, but we have some pretty decent evidence to back up the fact that he could keep up with him in speed. Whether it's blitzing or not doesn't really matter. We know that they're in the same category of speed because Madara was able to react to Tobirama, which Juubito was not really able to do. On top of that, Madara was also, like, casually, this was the most casual fucking thing ever. He just whips out the Uchiha shield and he's like, Naruto, can you just, like, take that Rasengan back, please? And then it was that's a pretty big deal because it was KCM mode 2, and we know how fast that is. Like, it shits on the Raikage, so that's a pretty big.
When Madara dodged Tobirama's attack, Tobirama did not use Flying Raijin mark on Madara's back. He used it on his kunai, so Madara was able to sense him with Hashirama's senjutsu. But when Obito got hit by Naruto's Rasengan, Tobirama used Flying Raijin, using the mark on Obito's back, so it's not comparable. If Madara had a mark on his back, like Obito, he would not be able to react to Tobirama's Flying Raijin.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's also worth getting into. When I say blitz, I don't mean that, you know, Madara is going to fucking destroy Obito before he can react, but here's the thing. Obito is surrounded by a barrier made out of truth-seeking orbs, and if I remember correctly, it is composed of all of the truth-seeking orbs that he has at his disposal.
Obito had 10 truth-seeking orbs and used 6 to create barrier.
See, here's the one thing that a lot of people don't know about is that the tailed beast, the truth-seeking ball barriers that Madara and Obito are able to create, they have different levels. There's one level that only uses 2 of them that's pretty weak. Guy was actually able to break through one of these, and then there's like the one at the very top that uses all of the truth-seeking orbs at once, and this was able to block a combined Sage attack from Sage Mode Sage Mode KCM2 Naruto. It was a Sage Mode enhanced Biju Bomb and a Sage Mode enhanced Susanoo arrow from Sasuke at the same time, but this chipped off a little bit of the shield. So I think the fact that Obito was confident that the shield wouldn't even budge, that it would protect him from any damage that 4 Jubi blasts were going to cause, I think that it's safe to assume that this was going to use like all 6 of the orbs, because, you know, 6 of the orbs, you know, like that, a shield composed of that cracked in response to the pressure created by a 9 Tails Biju Bomb and a Susanoo arrow, which are significantly weaker than the 4 Jubi blasts that we're talking about here. What I'm getting at here is Obito doesn't have any of the truth-seeking orbs to use offensively. They're all being used to create this barrier. And in that case, he wouldn't be able to sick any of them on Madara while he's approaching him. And like Clyde just pointed out, Madara was fast enough to react to Tobirama, and Obito wasn't. See, Tobirama used Flying Thunder God to try and, you know, catch Madara by surprise from behind, but Madara immediately reacted to this and stuck a bunch of Rinnegan rods into Tobirama's body, leaving him immobilized. But, see, Obito wasn't able to react to something very similar, which was Tobirama teleporting Sage Mode Naruto, who was holding a Rasengan, to his backside. And I know you might be able to be like, well, Obito got blitzed from behind, so it's not the same, but so did Madara, and Naruto was able to, like, effortlessly slap him with a Rasengan from behind. He couldn't react to it, and this is very interesting. At the very least, their reaction times are comparable, and so I think Madara would be able to react to any non-truth-seeking ball attacks that Obito fired at him, and in that case, he'd probably be able to attack him before the barrier closes. That's all that I'm trying to say. I know it took a very long time for me to explain this one scenario, but I know that a lot of people are going to bring up the 6 Crimson Rays formation, and now that we've got that out of the way, let's move on to every other aspect of the fight.
Naruto and Sasuke could damage Obito's defense just because Naruto had lots of Seijutsu and Jugo also had huge reserves of the Seijutsu, and 2 Seijutsu combined was only able to scratch the shield, while Madara is not even a sage. He just used the sage chakra that he stole from Hashirama.
Alright, so now I guess we should start comparing the ninjutsu that they have access to now that we've gotten past that little scenario. So why don't you go ahead and start talking about Madara's arsenal, because he has quite a few more jutsu at his disposal, barring the yin-yang stuff.
He does indeed. So whenever I think of Madara, I like to compare him to Kakashi in terms of the fact that, you know, Kakashi is known as the man with 1,000 jutsu, and the same can be applied with Madara. I have no doubt that he's got as many jutsu for sure, because he barely whipped any of them out, but we know that he's very versed in everything. So obviously he's got all of the nature types, he can use basically everything that we've already seen. And another thing he can do, which a lot of people don't think about because it just never happened, is obviously the fight between him and Juubito never happened. So we never got to see him mix, obviously, the Hashirama Sage Mode Chakra slash, you know, energy with his Perfect Susanoo, which he could use against Juubito.
That would make his Perfect Susanoo significantly more powerful. Like, it took Naruto from, like, average lifting strength to being able to lift a massive fucking rhinoceros. And, you know, he was able to, like, punch apart. I mean, like, Naruto's strength went up significantly. It was, like, comparable to Tsunade's. So, you know, Madara with an amp like that, it's no fucking joke. And I think that the best way to explain it is Madara was comparable with his Rinnegan to Sage Mode Hashirama. And when so you give him Hashirama Sage Mode, and it's like Sage Hashirama went Sage Mode on top of that. And that's a ridiculous thing to try and fucking imagine. Now, it doesn't make him as strong as Obito, but it makes his Susanoo more powerful, it makes all of his jutsu more powerful, and like Clyde said, he has pretty much every nature type aside from the Kekkei Genkai ones. It makes sense that he, during the Warring States period, he would have used his Sharingan to copy a whole bunch of different Senju jutsu.
Like I mentioned, Madara can spam Sage Chakra because he can't absorb it from nature. You think that with only one charge of Sage Chakra he can use it to amplify Susanoo all-nature transformation, etc. He needed Sage Jutsu to seal Biju's in Gedomazo after he became 10-tailed Jinchuriki. He did not had Hashirama Sage Mode, he had 6-path Senjutsu, which allows user to heal like Obito could regenerate his half body when he destroyed it himself.
And, you know, I mean, like, He's also got all of the Rinnegan abilities. I imagine since the Rinnegan originally belonged to him, he's better at using them than Obito would be.
I'd comfortably say yeah, for sure, because it wouldn't be such a chakra drain on top of him. And another thing you said too was obviously, so the Sage Mode gives him a strength increase, and if, you know, we're not going to get into the technicalities of this, but you could make the argument that thanks to the buff with the Perfect Susanoo, he can swing a lot harder, and we can see that with the casual swing, he could cut mountains in half, which could definitely be in the strength tier to damage Juubito.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, Naruto with his QB avatar, once like Sasuke cloaked the QB avatar in the Susanoo, Obito was like, alright, I gotta use my full power now. This is a sword of Ninoboko. And so that's pretty interesting. So if they together were able to do that, Madara, I'm not saying that Madara's Sage Mode Perfect Susanoo would be on the same level as that fucking monstrosity that was made from combining the Susanoo and the QB avatar, but I will say that it would definitely be in it would be somewhere around the level necessary.
It definitely is. It definitely is. I have no doubt that it would be, and especially with the way that Madara. So when he first used the Perfect Susanoo, it was clearly to display what it can do. If he was to use it seriously, I'm sure it would be completely different. So obviously, like we said, with the Sage buff, it would be a very good weapon for him to use against Juubito.
Again, we might finally be able to see him use his Mangekyo Sharingan powers in this fight. That'd be pretty nice. He never used them any time in the series, and that was a really big letdown. So I don't know what they are, but maybe they'll assist him in some way. The biggest thing, though, I didn't mention this when I just brought up Wood Release, but he also has all of his Wood clones, and he's additionally capable of using Shadow clones, as seen when he left a Shadow clone in the casket that Tobirama had him buried in. So all of this said, he has a lot more tools to take Obito down than Obito would in the reverse situation.
By the way, Madara with Edo Tensei was not able to use Hashirama Sage Mode. He was able to use it because when revived, he absorbed it from Hashirama. So your point that Madara has many weapons against Obito is nonsense. Obito also has Human Path.
And on top of that, I really think that his Wood clones are going to help him out here, especially because he has unlimited chakra given his Edo Tensei state. Now, Obito, on the other hand, he basically just has all of the yin-yang attacks and the Rinnegan. He also has insane speed, strength, and durability. Like, I mean, he casually and effortlessly blitzed KCM Naruto and EMS Sasuke. Like, it was no effort whatsoever. They couldn't do anything. He was just, in one spot 1 second, and then the next he had both of his hands wrapped around their fucking faces. And, he was able to react to multiple acts of teleportation from both Tobirama and Minato. Like, it's fucking ridiculous how fast this guy is. But, I think, to compare his speed to Madara, it's one thing that I think is overlooked by a lot of people is that in the manga, when he's speaking to Kabuto about the Hashirama implants, Madara says, oh, so this is why I've been able to see so many things ahead of time with such ease when he takes a look at the Hashirama face on his chest. I'm not forgetting that Obito has Hashirama implants, but I'm pretty sure that Madara has access to quite a few more, and they increased his reaction speed to by a significant amount. Like, he even says this to Kabuto. And so then when you stack Sage Mode, which gives a person even greater sensory capabilities and even greater reaction speed, and, you know, he also has both of his Rinnegan, it's like, holy shit. You know, he might be able to react to a lot of what Juubito is capable of throwing out. So, you know, we've laid out everything that Madara can do, and pretty much everything that Obito can do. You know, Obito doesn't really have a lot of jutsu. I don't want to seem like we're underselling him, but his main thing was just Kamui and Fire Style. He has a couple Wood Style jutsu, but not really that many. He hasn't shown off a whole lot, and he doesn't have access to Kamui anymore, so it's, you know, I guess he'd probably rely mostly on all of the Ten-Tail stuff.
And another thing is that we're not even really, like, wanking Madara at all, because at this point in the series, he's obviously not the strongest that he's ever been, but he never really went all out at all, so we're basically going off of a Madara who was purposely fucking around for majority of the war. But as for who would actually win the fight, obviously this is a matter of, like, it's a very situational-based fight. It really comes down to who attacks in what certain way. I'm pretty confident with Madara. Obviously, I do like him a lot, but I'm very confident that he would find a way to win, because, I mean, he did state that, you know, he was thanking Naruto and Sasuke for dealing with Juubito because he would have had to do it himself, so obviously he had the confidence and pre-thought that it was going to happen.
I don't want to count Obito out here. I think that with the Jubi Jinchuriki, he would be really hard. Like, if Madara wins, it would be like a 9.95 out of 10 difficulty. This would be the hardest fight he's ever participated in, without a shadow of a doubt, I think. I guess aside from the ones against Hashirama.
I definitely agree, because even the word of, you know, straight from the horse's mouth, like, Hashirama literally says, yeah, this dude's stronger than me, so that defines how strong, like, this guy is. And Madara obviously got stronger, he really did, but to say that so casually would imply that this is an enemy that Madara is going to have the most trouble with out of just about anybody.
Now, he does know a lot about the Six Paths powers. He was able to start using them with ease immediately after becoming the Jinchuriki of the Ten-Tails. So, you know, he'd probably know what he's going up against, and, you know, like you said to me before we started recording, he said something while he was watching the fight, like, oh, so the Sage of Six Powers, they really do exist, meaning he knew what they were, and he knew what to expect going into the fight. On top of that, he probably spent the entire battle against Hashirama observing Obito's fight with everybody, so he'd have a lot more intel on Obito than Obito does on him. The first thing is that Madara could use Zetsu to immobilize Obito at some point, and I'm not saying he'd do this right off the bat. It'd have to be when Obito's guard is down or when he's weakened, but you shouldn't count Zetsu out, because he was able to immobilize dual Rinnegan Jubi Jinchuriki Madara, so he'd definitely be able to do the same to Obito given the right circumstances. But I also think that if Obito does pull out the Sword of Ninoboko and he gets into like a Susanoo clash with Madara, Madara could take the win here by weakening Obito's resolve by saying something about, like, Rin or whatever, you know. All it would take was a bit of a psychological warfare. The Sword of Ninoboko would break, and Madara would have the win.
And a lot of people will say, straight away, they will argue the point that, no, that's too easy, but you need to realize that Madara is the only parental figure that Obito has really had. He's basically a father in a sense, regardless of how much of a dick he kind of was to Obito, but still, he is a father figure, and the fact that he would whip that out mid-fight, like, yo, I'm pretty sure Rin wouldn't like this, like, that would fuck with him straight away.
Even if it was just for a split second, yeah, it would fuck with him for long enough to break the Sword of Ninoboko, and, you know, that'd be that. But if Madara's not able to pull any of this off, he'll probably get fucking erased. Like, he makes one mistake, and that's it. It depends on whether or not he can outsmart Obito here. And, you know, it's just...
Yeah, and it's not beneath Madara. It's not beneath, but I definitely believe that he would do that in a bad situation, and he'd keep his cool. But yeah, it's not something out of character. It feels like if Madara was like, alright, this is getting a bit out of hand, I'm gonna fuck with Obito and then put him off guard.
I can imagine Kishimoto writing it so that Madara wins, but, you know, I'm not going to dismiss the possibility that Juubito would come out on top. I think that it's far more likely that Obito would win, but it is pretty possible for Madara to come away with a win here. The biggest thing that I think would give Madara an advantage is if he's able to get up close to Obito and use the Rinnegan to absorb the Six Paths chakra. At that point, if he manages to do that, then he'll probably be able to come away with a win. But if not, then it really depends. Even if Madara doesn't win solo, I'm pretty sure, like, reasonably, some other members of the Allied Shinobi forces would see that he's turned against Obito, and they'd just be like, well, let's take fucking advantage of this. Juubito's been killing everybody. Let's, help him out. They'd help immobilize Obito. Then Madara would, take the Jubi and then become a Jinchuriki. If this fight were to happen, Kishimoto would definitely find some way to make Madara win, ass pull or not. Ass pull or not, I mean, like, he fucking introduced Izanami just to have Kabuto lose to Itachi, so, but given everything we've seen so far, I'd say it's like, I'm like 60% for Juubito, 40% for Madara. Maybe more like 65 or 70 for Juubito. It's just like, it's a really hard argument to say that Madara wins, but I do think that it's very possible that he could come away with a victory.
P.S. Madara has only two ways that can beat Obito. One is that he could use Summon Path to take out Obito's soul, but like I explained, it won't happen because Obito is faster, he can fly, etc. And second, if he weakens him with Sage techniques and then extract Tentals, that way he can also win. But Madara is not Sage. He can absorb chakra from humans, but he can't absorb natural energy. And remaining Sage chakra he has is not enough to do this some serious damage to Obito, to weaken him. But if we give Madara unlimited Sage chakra, then that's the way he could win.